I start.
Well, yeah, so I would like to thank you first and for accepting my invitation to have this interview with you. And I would like to start with you by telling us something about you and like some information about where you're born and where do you live now and would you say your culture identity.
Okay, my name is Jefferson Costa. I'm a chemical process engineer with expertise in plant design, and I was born in Brazil. Recently, I completed 40 years old, and since 2007, I work with plant design and also with commissioning, startup, and plant troubleshooting.
And how did you get to the chemical engineering field?
I was doing that we call here in Brazil agricultural technician, and in the São Paulo state. I am from Rio de Janeiro, and I went to another state to study about agriculture. So when I was there, it is like equivalent to high school in US, and my father told me about a chemical process, a chemical engineering degree in a state university, and here in Brazil, state and federal university is for free, and they are very competitive to get in because we need to do some tests, and there are few positions to get in. So I did a test, and it had 80 80 positions open, and I was the 129 in the 129 position. So I didn't pass in my first exam. However, uh, exactly 50 people give up from the position. So I was getting higher in the relocation, and I was one of the last one to get a position to study chemical engineering in this university. So that was as I started as a chemical engineer.
Well, that's actually great. I'm glad that you got into the program that you needed. So moving to the next question, you have been right now like for more than 10 years in this industry and this field. So I would like to know what are some of the primary issues that you are facing or the whole industry is facing right now.
Uh, the global economy is not good, and the petroleum oil is cheaper, and because of that, we don't have too much investment in the oil and gas industry in overview. But there are some some economies or some markets that is still growing up. In Brazil, I currently I work with natural gas, and not only biogas production, but also the compressing of natural gas. So as it is a vital energy for our economy, currently, I don't have any worry about having a job or not because is very warmed for me. In fact, I'm working more during the COVID and the pandemic in my home office than I was working before the crisis. So I have some friends that lose their job because the pandemic, but that is not my case. And in fact, uh, some previous weeks before, I gave up from two job invitation, and that those invitation part is because I did a good relationship in the places that I worked before, and I worked in some places before I went where I am today. And partly is because I share my knowledge in LinkedIn. So when you are known, people remember you more. Okay.
Yeah, I actually agree with that. Making connections and relationships with people help a lot these days, and building like your social platforms. I have seen that you have Facebook page, YouTube channel, and you have an account on LinkedIn, which is great. And I really like it. When I was looking at your profile, I learned a lot about you, and I saw that you have experiences in China, and I really want you to talk about that later, maybe. So, talking about these issues that you mentioned, how the people, how the public were responding and were addressing these issues.
Just before I proceed, for people that is going to my YouTube channel right now, Al Hassan is from Oman, and he invited me for an online interview, and I accepted that challenge. And as you know, people who follow my work, my English is not so good, but we are doing our best to communicate. And it is a test also related to my internet because it is not so good so far. And I hope you like it. And if you have any question, you can use also the comments that you can see the comments, Al Hassan, in
Yeah, I can
YouTube.
see.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and eventually Al Hassan will choose and select any question to ask to me. Okay, and about the issues that I said, I'm not so sure if there are so much to do during this crisis, but what I believe is that the engineer must build their career in three pillars, and I really believe about that, and I think this is one of the reasons that I keep sharing my experience in the internet. Okay, so my first tip to everyone that is facing this crisis is to believe in their self and build a stronger inner self is the first step to you keep going and uh, keeping uh, keeping going and keeping winning your wars and your battles. Because if you don't believe in yourself, anyone will. And how how I do to build a stronger inner self. Particularly, I like to read for books and content related to personal development. So I suggest to everyone that talks to me about this content is that Tony Robbins is a good reference or a good start to understand what is our behaviors and why we do some certain why we have some actions and why we're not. And another person that I like a lot is Bobby Proctor. The Bobby Proctor content is based on the Napoleon Hill content in book Think and Grow Rich. So I read more than once, and I believe that with that you start changing your mindset in order that you always look for the solution instead of uh, looking for the problem. I think that any engineer, every engineer in fact, must think about the solution, and they must understand the problem but not fix in the problem. They must fix in the solution. So that's, I think it is very important to every engineer and chemical engineers because it is my main public. And the second part is the technical skill, and part of that we learn during the university or engineering course, but most of people are too young to understand the importance of they are learning during the engineering course. And I know that because I was young uh, previously, and I didn't understand why should I care about the heating material balance and sh- why should I care about mathematics like integrals or differentials and etc. So most of these I don't use directly in my job, but during the chemical engineering course, I was building strategic or connections to help me understand the problem that I face today. And some parts of the not understanding the connections between the theoretical and the practice, I think that because most teachers don't have industry experience, so it is difficult to show a relationship if you don't if you didn't have lived that. So that is something that I try to break or try to surpass with my sharing, my content sharing in LinkedIn, for instance, because I'm not a teacher, and you can see that in fact, I am very shy. I don't like to talk to the public, but I have the philosophy that if I need to do that, I will do that no matter what. And that's why I do my best to expose my experience for younger people in order that they can be more prepared for the technical career or engineering career, and feel this lack of relationship between technical and theoretical and practice. And finally, I will let you do another question. Don't worry. And finally, I believe that we need to invest in external skills. If I use this word, but someone will know that as social skill, and that is very important also during your engineering course because most of time 99% of time you get a job from a recommendation or because someone that you know uh, helped you with that. And that was what happened with me in my first job. I was in São Paulo and I finished my graduation and I didn't get a job because I was very uh, not good in interview, and I was more shy than I am today. But my father worked in the industrial area. He was in Angola in that time, but he uh, have known some people that worked in design office, and so he did some recommendation about me for those people. And one day when I was in Rio de Janeiro, I received a call for a person telling me that I should be there in 15 minutes to do the interview with a customer. And I was in the train going to another interview, and when I finished that, I went to the address that it was given to me, and I did the interview, and I got the job because I had a reference. And when I was in this, it was an EPC for a polypropylene plant, and I worked hard there, and I didn't know anything about plant design, but as I did my job well and with commitment, the customer invited me to be part of its design department. So that was someone that already knows you, probably may offer you a job opportunity. Uh, what what is important? Build a stronger relationship and professional relationship, and never be lazy at your work, or be stressed, or complain about everything, because someone is watching you, and it is the same in the social media. It is very tricky to be complain about the world in social media, because people, although anyone may say anything to you, they are watching. And particularly if I know someone that complains a lot, I would never recommend those people to any job position. I'm talking too much, Al Hassan.
That's actually was a great answer for that question. I really appreciate that, and your thoughts were really valuable to everyone here. Uh, I said you have a question in the chat, but first of all, I want to ask you another question that might be related to what you have just said. So I saw that you have worked in China for a couple of months. So I want to see what is. I want to hear your experience about that and how is it different to work in another culture in China versus how it looks in your country in Brazil. So, what are the main things that you have noticed, or the differences that you've noticed between the two countries?
The main the main issue that I found there was the communication. And although during my work I was in a I was working with Chineses, but most of them know how to speak English, so it was the main language that we talked there. When I went from the office in the hotel, I was in an international hotel, so it was okay. But when I tried to interact to other people from the office and from the hotel, it was too difficult because I don't know Chinese, and I learned some few words, but I was not able to participate too much in the Chinese culture because of that. So my I was in a hotel in front of the office, so I just crossed a line, a street, and I was in the office. And during the weekend, I usually went to temples, visit temples in China, very beautiful temples. There are lots of them there. And I went to the mall to see the promotions, but more to have dinner outside than talking to people. And
And did you see any differences between the industry, like talking about the chemical engineering industry? Did you see any differences between the two countries and how each country approaches this industry?
no, because the office that I was a subsidiary of an American company in China, but I had worked in the Brazilian subsidiary. So what happened was I left the company, and 6 months later, my Xbox, not the video game, but my ex boss, he invited me to go to China to help the process engineering department there. So basically, what I did in Brazil, or what I do in Brazil in terms of job, was the same that I needed to do in China. So the job was the same. And talking to the people in the office was great. I was well received there. And I I was in Shanghai. I cannot say that I know China because China is too big and Shanghai is the commercial and the financial center of China. And so it was like if I were in Brazil, but with a lot of a lot of Chinese in the streets, and talking about the behavior or the living there, what I could perceive was that the area that I lived was very safe, and I walked there with the cell phone in my hand without any worries, and that is very different from Rio de Janeiro because we are always afraid that someone may aboard you to an assault or rob you. So the main the main impact that I lived in Shanghai was that it would be very safe and no worries to walk around in any time during the morning, night, or overnight there. So I didn't feel so uncomfortable there because of that. It was really great these 3 months that I was there.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And someone in the chat asked a question about what's the difference between technical process expert versus being a product engineer, and how much are these two interchangeable?
The difference about technical process expert being a project engineer. Uh, sorry. The project engineer is the person responsible for doing the interfaces from the disciplines. So the process engineer their job, and the mechanical engineer has their job, and the electrical has their job also, and the project engineer is responsible to do the management of the deliverables and the schedule to integrate the, the information that we need to build a project. And the process engineer is responsible for the heating material balance, for the process flow diagram, process data sheet for equipment, and it is the first person to develop the piping instrumentation diagram. And although the pipe instrumentation diagram is not exclusively to the process engineer, as we are the first person to propose solution for chemical process, the PNID needs to start with us. And once we do the preliminary design for that, we need to have comments from mechanical, from electrical, from instrumentation, automation, and etc. And each discipline will develop their own sets of documentation, and the project engineer will guarantee that we do that on schedule, on time, and under the cost. So that is the main difference between being a process expert and being a project engineer. But as you get senior in your career, people wait for you that you increase your level of project management. So I recorded an audio to my Telegram in process these days, talking about that I was managing an electrical consultant contract because our team is very short. So as I am one of the seniors in the team, I get the responsibility to follow up this contract and verify if everything that was agreed with the consultant are being delivered to us. So my recommendation is that in the beginning of your career, focus on in process technician or technical knowledge, but every time you can learn about project management, and because that will help you to understand the needs and the desires of your customer, like the project manager and the customer.
Great, great answer for that question. We have more questions in the chat, but first I want to ask you another question that is related to your identity as a Brazilian engineer. So first of all, I want you to answer what does it mean for you to be a Brazilian? What does Brazilian mean to be a Brazilian? And then after you answer that, what is it for me as a Omani? Is it going to be different if I work in Brazil? I mean, are they going to be there and a privilege for me, or that like the treatment is it going to be the same for Omanis or Brazilians?
Um, what I observe from the Brazilian people is that we usually, of course, I'm generalizing, okay, is that in the engineering field, we we don't bother to do the work that is beyond our scope of our supply. What I mean about that? When I was in this company, it was American company, and the headquarter was in US, in United States, and uh, we observed, depending on the people that we talked from exchanging information, that if we asked anything that was not related to the scope of work of that person, they prefer not to answer and address us that are specialists in that subject. And most often in Brazil, we don't do that. We try to learn more to be able to answer the question that was asked me. So I have received a lot of questions these days and in the following months, because I'm increasing my exposure in the internet. But although some subjects I don't know the answer, I try to do a research, even in Google, to know about a little bit, just a little bit, to guide the person that asked me about that, to try to give a better answer that just did that just telling him or her that I don't know. So I think that it is the main difference, or that is what be Brazilian means to me, to me, that we do our best to be familiar with the problem and propose a solution, and not be restricted to our subject. I'm a process engineer, and if you asked me about uh, electrical, I will not tell you, or I will not answer you anything, because I'm not an electrical engineer. That's not the case. Depending on the level of the question, I will try to find a quick answer, in order that with that answer you can go beyond looking for other answers. And I didn't get it, what you asked about Oman and Brazil. Could you repeat, please?
So yeah, so now you are a Brazilian citizen that's who's working in Brazil. So is it gonna be? Am I gonna have other experiences than yours if I work in Brazil as a Umani, as like an someone who's not Brazilian?
If I worked with people with not Brazilian in Brazil,
Yeah.
Uh,
Am I gonna face a different experiences than yours?
uh, yes, okay. During the startup in Brazil, I worked with Americans and I worked with Russians, and during the startup of a CO2 plant, and I have seen that in terms of people, I never had any, I not any, but I didn't have too much problem, or I didn't have any problem with anyone, no matter what was the country, because we were working together to try our best to bring the plant to start up safely and etc. But I I have a good relationship with a Moldavian, and he was not from my company. He was from the support of another company. In fact, the supplier of the technology. And as we deal with people, it doesn't matter if it is Indian, and if it is American or Brazilian, or if it's Spanish. You need to try to do your best to have a good relationship with anyone, because you don't know if, as I mentioned in the beginning, you don't know if that person will be the door to you have another opportunity, not only in your country, but in another country. So sometimes during the field activities we get stressed because we have a lot of pressure, and that is normal, but we need to do our best to, once that stress finish, we get a good relationship with everyone. So I don't fix too much in this, because he's a Brazilian or because he's Chinese. I don't have this kind of thoughts. I don't think too much about that. And currently I have friends in China, and I have lots of friends in India, because my main public is from India, and now Middle East. A lot of people comes from there to talk to me. So I think that much more I'm being globalized than regional in my region. So it's a subject that I don't think too much about the difference. I don't mind about the difference.
Thank you so much, sir, for that answer. And some one more question, and then we're gonna go to the chat. What do you like the most about your work about the chemical engineering industry?
What I like most during my job is to do drawing. I think that the chemical process engineer is the person that get the problem, transform that in on drawings, and with drawings we can explain easier to people what is happening and how we will solve that. So one of the parts that I most like is to draw PNID, and I like to draw also the process flow diagram, and I like most doing that than doing heat and material balance, because in fact the heat and material balance, who did that for me is the process simulation. But during the PNID drawing is where I think what is important to the maintenance and what is important to operations, that in order that I need to add or I need to remove, uh, to let the system more safer, and to let the system more reliable. And that's why I most like to do the pipe instrumentation diagram. For sure, it's my best preferred activity.
That's awesome. And what is a typical day like for you at work? Like basically how's your day looks like at work? What do you do usually in your job?
Currently, I woke up around 6 a.m., do coffee for my wife, and I start doing 30 minutes meditation. And I do around 10 to 15 minutes Duolingo because I try to practice Germany and also Chinese. And I start my day in work here in my home office around 9 a.m. And I open the mailbox and see what I have from the during the night or what I didn't answer yet. And with the after I do that, I do a list of the main tasks of the day, like I need to talk with the supplier, I need to finish a technical evaluation and something like that. And during the COVID, I'm having a lot of meetings, so there is days that I have a meeting during the morning, during the afternoon, and sometimes during the night. And when I finish my day around 7 p.m., 6 p.m., depending on the day, I I try to record some classes to my online training and to do posts to LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram. So this is my usual day, and I go to bed around 11 p.m. or something like that, depending on the how I'm doing the things during the day.
That's interesting. And my next question is about what's your advice for the new people who are just start working at in companies, and many people in the chat ask questions about. Someone here asked, no company wish to hire chemical engineers as a fresher. So what can one do to get entry level position? And many similar questions. What is the perfect or the right age to get into petroleum field jobs? So a lot of questions basically about what can someone do after graduating from college? What is the right position to get into? What is the perfect age to be a chemical processor, and many similar questions.
Okay, and so I will focus on getting the first job, right? Um, what we need to understand that the job market is in fact a job market. And what is a market? If we have too many offers, the price will be low, and if you have a scarcity, the higher the price will be higher. And currently, we have too many engineers available in the market. Not only freshers, but also experienced one because the economic crisis and the pandemic and etc. And what is the difference about the jobless and what is the difference for those that has a job? The first is the inner self, how you see yourself, and if you um, in the interview now, I did a little bit about that, and you need to build a stronger inner self, and in simple words, keep a positive mindset to let the things happens in a good way to you. It's the you don't if you keep complain about the world, it is not good for you and it will not change your life. So the first thing is keep a positive mindset, and no matter what, a positive mindset, and treat or do connections while you are in the college or while you are in the chemical engineering course, because although you may not get a job, eventually a friend of yours will get, and he or she can be a door to a future job position. And I have seen I never was the best of my class, although I was from 0 to 10, I was the student 7.5, but I was always too shy and I did very, very few social connections during my chemical degree. So it was much harder to me to get a job. I just get a job 1 or 2 years after I left my chemical engineering bachelor degree. So, but in the other hand, I kept the positive mindset at a high level, not all the time, but most of the time I did that, and I had connections that let me uh, allowed me to get a job position. And once you get a job position, I remember as if it was yesterday that I just wanted to work. I was not worried about the salary. I was not worried about how many times I would work per day or per week, because I understood on that time that I need to get experience, and once I have experience, I will be able to change from job to job according to the job market. And some people get desesperated right now because we are in crisis, but they forget that you need to prepare yourself during the crisis, because when we are in the abundance, uh, you will one of the first to get a position. And I think that the tip or recommendation that I could suggest to you is prepare yourself now, and uh, verify if you really like to work with chemical engineering. And there are many rules that you can do in industry. You can be a salesperson, a buyer person, but the process engineer in in general is the person that needs to look for the solution and work alone and do reports and calculations. So if you are too much talkative and you like to talk to people all the time, maybe the processing engineering position is not the best for you, because most of the time I work at the silence without talking with anyone, because I need to think in the solutions to develop the drawings that I need. And know yourself is something that people forget about that. And and because of that, we are too desperate to get a job that we don't focus in what is really important to get a job. That is, do connections and expose yourself in the internet. Actually, if you not expose yourself in the internet, you are just one more number in the millions of chemical engineers that are available there. I have a mentee of mine, one of the first one that start sharing uh, his knowledge in LinkedIn, and although he didn't get a job yet, more than one time he was invited to job position and verify he if he was available for that and what he think about that kind of problem. So I strongly believe that very soon he will get a job position because he exposed himself in the internet. And right now, I receive a question about doing a master degree or not doing a master degree. In fact, the question was, should I do a master degree to be a better chemical process engineer? And I was very sincere in the audio that I recorded to my Telegram group, my Telegram channel, that in my point of view, and maybe someone will criticize me, I don't believe that a master degree by itself will make you a better process engineer because I start a master degree in chemical in environment engineering, and what I did there was study specific subjects related to another subject. And if you do not do or build connections during your master degree, you are only wasting, not wasting your time, but you are not uh, having the best of your time there. So, do you want to do a master degree? Do that, but don't think only about the technician. Think about the socialization that you can do once you are in the university again. And you will do socialization with your teachers and with your partners because some of them um, still or already have a job, and that is an opportunity to show to people that you are able to do the to face challenges, and eventually they will give you an opportunity or suggest you to an opportunity like that.
That's actually a great answer for these questions. And I really agree with that, especially like a lot of students when they graduate from college, they want to work in some high level companies and they want to get like the best jobs right away. And as Mr. Cam said in the chat, that you need to work for it, you need to prove yourself and you need to uh, develop your skills and you do like some special projects for yourself to prove yourself, and then you get what you need and what you want to do for the rest of your life. But it is difficult at the beginning, but you're gonna find your goal at the end. So, unless there are more questions that are related to the chemical or the process engineering, uh, I have asked you a few questions that relate to the engineering industry. I still have two more questions that are related to leadership definitions and global citizens. So my question is that I'm learning about what it means to be a citizen in different cultures. What does it mean for you to be a citizen in your culture?
That is a very difficult question because I'm not a I don't talk about the politics of my company, and I do not know if you know the situation of politicians in the Brazil
It,
right now. We have a very polarization between the left and the right uh, uh, political philosophy here. And what I do is work, study, technical, social, and personal development, and build and do and sharing my experience in the internet. I don't get my time to expand with politicians in Brazil nowadays because I understand that the who will change my life is myself, is not the politicians. And although it may be something like selfish, and I prefer to do things that I can control. I don't blame about what I cannot control. So if I am good enough to work in any place, to any company in the world, it doesn't matter if it's side A or side B that's governing Brazil, because eventually I can go to a better place. So that is my personal view about be a citizen, and I do my best to follow the rules and to be good with other people because I believe on that, but I don't involve myself in politician discussion because I believe that uh, it will not solve my life. It's not the way I think that will solve my problems.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And one more question, or the last question. Have you ever heard of the term global citizen, and what does it mean to you? And you cannot answer that question if you wish.
This term, I didn't know this term, global citizen. Yes,
Yeah, yes,
global
right.
citizen. I never heard about that, but uh, I think that is a person that it doesn't matter. I think that he or she that is a global citizen can choose where to live and when to do that. I think maybe something like that. And today it's getting easier to do that if you have uh, the technical skill and if you have money enough to do that. It's not so difficult because because of the internet. In many works you can work in any place in the world. You can be in what I do today. I would be in Spain and doing the same work because I don't need to go to the office personally uh, during the COVID, during the pandemic. So I think that maybe global citizen may be something like this. You, in this case, you know more than me. Please, what is the citizen, global citizen?
Well, that was a great answer for that question. To me, to be a global citizen is to have different perspectives, to have different ways of thinking, and to look at the world, to respect every culture in the world, to respect others' beliefs and backgrounds, to accept their cultures, and to only focus on the stuff on or on the things that we have in common instead of arguing and wasting time and discussing issues and problems that we never get along with. So, to be a global citizen is basically to respect everyone in your community, to respect their culture, to accept who they are, and from where they came and where they grew up. This is basically what global citizen means to me. And it
Yes,
is really important concept and term, especially when you're gonna work in some companies that have a lot of people from different cultures, from different countries and backgrounds, and a lot of problems now, especially nowadays that the U.S. Is facing. Is basically because people are missing this concept and this term because there's some issues that related to racism, and if you apply this term in your life, in your community, you can avoid these issues and these problems. Yeah.
yeah, very nice. And talking about plan design today, it's impossible. I think that I can affirm that it's impossible to you work only with people related to your own country because as much as the system get complex, the manufacturers get from the other places, and eventually you will need to send an email for someone in Germany or for someone in India or for someone in the US, and you will in a way or in the other get involved with other person than they are from your country. So that's why it is very important to know how to communicate in English. Al Hassan is from Oman, I am from Brazil, and we are talking in English. And although we don't have, or I don't have a perfect English, it is good enough to will have a more than 30 minutes conversation. Yes, around that. So That is that is something that who wants to work with plan design must observe that English is the most basic language that you should have or should learn to communicate with people.
That's correct. That's absolutely right. And we have one more question in the chat. And actually, I was going to ask you that question. It is always different from what we study in college. We spend like hours in classrooms studying theories, studying some information on the paper. But when we go to the field, to in the industry, we are facing something different. Do you have anything to say about that? Between the gap between the college and the real field and real world.
Yes, I think that we should consider two things here. The first one is that probably your teacher doesn't have a field experience, so it is hard to teach what you don't live it or what you don't know. And the other thing, and maybe it is probably it is the most important, is that the function of the chemical engineering course is not, as I have seen, is not prepare you to the job, but prepare you to think to solve a solution. But the academic people get too involved in thinking that they forget that we need to apply that thinking. But we don't, it's not possible to one thing live without another. And when we are in the college, we try to understand what is the meaning of learning a lot of things, and eventually you will leave the college without knowing that, but you will build during the chemical engineering course associations and a mindset to solve problem, and that what is the companies looks for. But if you prepare yourself, if you anticipate the things that the companies needs, you will be far ahead from the other people, because the although instead of talking to experienced people and talking to senior people about the needs that the companies have, most of people keep complaining that they are not learning anything useful in the engineering course. So if you disengage yourself from this kind of people and use LinkedIn to verify the posts, comments the posts, get involved with people. For instance, I know at least three people in LinkedIn that talk a lot of chemical engineering in LinkedIn. Myself, Vijay Sarat, the Nick Lash, we have different points of view about chemical engineering, but none of us are untouchable. You can send me a direct. I always answer, and VJ is the same. But people wants my help to get a job, but they don't know what this job, what is the job's need. And if you follow, for instance, in process Telegram, regularly I talk about something that I do in my job. So in my point of view, is one of the best way to understand what you learn in the college and what you will apply during your technical career or your job.
Thank you so much, sir, and I really appreciate that. And at the end, I would like to thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing your experience and your thoughts with me. Thank you for answering these questions and for Thank you for everyone joined the chat and contributed and asked questions. I hope that we answered all of your questions. Thank you so much again, and I really appreciate that. Do you want to say anything at the end? Any comments, any thoughts?
Uh, I would like to thank you, Al Hassan, for your courage to invite me to this invitation. It was, I believe it was not your first proposition, but I challenged Al Hassan that I would accept this invitation for a interview if he agreed with me to do that in the internet, that in order that I could record and let available for everyone that are interested on this. And they accepted from the first time in my challenge, and I very thankful for that because it was a great opportunity to me to test my new internet. Thanks to Al Hassan, and because we have a very good conversation here. Thanks for your questions, and I hope you can do that in a new future again and build more, maybe bring a guest to be with me and bring more knowledge for people that are looking for chemical engineering, plant design.
Yeah, thank you so much again. I really appreciate that. It was a great conversation. It was a great interview that we had, and I'm really excited to do this again in the future, and do it more often to ask more questions and also to have more people join the live and ask more questions about the industry. Thank you so much, sir. I really appreciate that, and I really wish you have a nice day.
For you too. Bye bye.
Bye.